Okay, so this little video is going to be about my 8mm Cine camera, which admittedly I've never ever used. I got it given many years ago and never had a use for it really. I think by the time I got this given, I think 8mm film, if not entirely out of production, was certainly very rare. So this particular one's a Bell and Howell 8mm. Let's have a look at this. It looks like it's fixed focus. Looks like you can't alter the focus on it, but you can alter the aperture, which will give you exposure control. Obviously you could use a light meter, I suppose, with that, but there is an idiot guide down the bottom here. Bright sun, hazy sun, light shade. So if we go for a typical English day with colour film, there we go, and that will give you an f-stop of 4. This particular camera is clockwork, so you have to wind it up. Wound up, I think. Right, and then when you push this down like this, it will film. There she goes. Although this camera does also have a feature where you can go one frame at a time, so you can go, and you can hear it taking one picture, so you could do animation with that, for example. So it's very simple. It's totally mechanical, no electronics, no motors, no anything really, just clockwork. I think the spring runs for about 30 seconds, which is okay because the films were very short anyway. Now one thing I should show you here is that this is the film that goes in the projector. This is the standard 8mm film, the original 8mm film. But this is not what you put in the camera. What you put in the camera is, here it is, 16mm film. And as you can see, it's exactly twice the size. But what it actually had to do with this stuff was you actually had to load it into the camera, and it would only expose on one half of the film. And then when the film got to the end, you had to take it out the camera, turn it around like a cassette or a record or whatever, and put it back through, and it would then expose on the other side of the film. And then what happened was, when you sent this away to get processed, they would process it, and then they would split it down the middle, and then they would put it onto a spool, and when you got it back, it'd be in this format. Why it was like that, I don't know, but there you go. So this is 16mm film, which you have to run through the camera twice. I think each run was 2 minutes, I think. So in total you had 4 minutes of film on your spool there. Right, so if we open this up, very straightforward. You've got 2 spools, one for your take-up spool, one for your feed spool, and this is the gate. This is where the pictures are taken. I don't know if you can quite see in there. Probably can't actually. I might do a close-up if I can later on. But the gate is very small, and it's only exposing one half of the film, one side of the film. There's a little lever in here, which is, the idea is that when you put the spool in like that, do it right around you. When you put the spool in like that, as the film winds onto the spool, it will push that lever backwards. There we are, push that lever backwards out of the way, and what that does is it operates the gauge on the side here, which basically tells you how many feet of film you've used, 25 feet being the maximum that this will take. So that gives you an idea of how much you've exposed. You can tell when you got to the end because you can hear a different sound in the machine as the film comes out of the thing. Now the film's on here, and as you can see there's holes all the way along, and you may be wondering, well, how is it when you're loading the film that it doesn't get exposed, you know, to the layers underneath, because surely there's a crack down the side? And the answer is, well, yeah, it did. It did quite often. One of the characteristics you'll see of home movies is that you'll see usually either a white band at the side or a yellow band at the side, and that's where the light has gotten its way down there. What does that say there? CTMALBEXPS. No idea what that means. Obviously this roll of film is completely dud. So it looks like it goes in like that. And then it has to go around a tight corner like that, in behind the gate, like that, and then you can shut the gate like that, and then it comes out. Move that lever back out the way. This is very fiddly, I've got to say. Alright, so feed that. Let's feed a bit more film through, I think. Feed that into there. Thingy around there like that. Bring that round like that. Is that going to work? That's it. So obviously that was very, very fiddly. And you'd have to do that after every 2 minutes of footage that you were trying to record, whether it be changing the film around or indeed changing the film entirely. And all the while you're losing frames at the beginning because of the light coming into it. But I mean, you can see how fast that film's rolling through there. Yeah, that's quite quick. You'll probably notice by the way it's sounding as well, when you let go of the shutter there's a very definite click, and the reason it's got to do that is because it's not just a motor, even a clockwork one, that starts and stops, because if the position of the mechanism was to stop where the shutter was open, that would burn through into the film and you'd end up with a white spot on the film, which wouldn't be good. So it does actually have to stop on a deliberate closed shutter position. As you can see, it gets up to speed straight away as well, and it stops straight away, and indeed there's the animation, single frame mode. I understand that professional movie cameras don't have that feature, because when you see the outtakes, the bloopers and the dailies, you can actually see lots of white popping frames, and in fact you can also see that in between takes that the film seems to speed up and slow down. People suddenly start walking at crazy speeds, and it's because the camera's slowing down, which has the effect when you project it back of making the film seem speeded up. In fact, I think when they're making films, they tend to go, you know, lights, camera, somebody will then shout speed, meaning the camera's up to speed, and then someone will shout action, and away they'll go. Yeah, so that would have been like that. That would have been in there like that, and then you would have went away and you would have filmed what you wanted. I mean, me just messing around there, I've already used 5 feet of film, which means I've only got 20 left. And it would go quite quickly. And that spring's wound down, so I'd now have to wind it back up again in order to get another 30 seconds of film recording time. And away I go again. Right, I've never used this system because although I did make films in my late teenager years, this was very old news, and like I say, I'm not 100% sure you could still actually get film for it at the time. So what I actually got was not this standard 8 type stuff, I got the Super 8 stuff. And just to confirm, this is standard 8 film, which is 8mm wide, but the big difference is, I don't know if you see the sprockets, but the sprocket holes are huge, whereas the Super 8 film, which was I think developed by Kodak, had much smaller sprocket holes, much smaller sprocket holes, and that had the advantage of allowing the frame to be much bigger, and therefore technically the picture to be better, although a lot of people argued against that for the reason which I will attempt to explain now. Right, so as a teenager I wanted to make movies, and this is what I was able to buy. Obviously I didn't have much money, a bit dusty, isn't it? So this is a Super 8 camera. Now it's a much fancier camera than the one you just saw, because it's electric. You just pull the trigger and it runs off electric. It also has an auto exposure system in it as well, and it's got a zoom lens which operated with that, so it'll go from wide angle to zoom like that. It's also got a focus which is there. It's got through the lens imaging. There used to be a big rubber cone on here, but it's rotted off unfortunately. It's got some weird features, like the lens cap turns into a lens hood, which is quite strange. The trigger can be pushed up like that, so you can't accidentally shoot the film, but then you bring it down and then you can take pictures. I'm not 100% sure what that's for, but I think it might have been an exposure lock. Might have been, I don't know. Yeah, so that's what you made. That's what you took your films with. Now the big difference between Super 8 and Standard 8 was how it handled the film. With Super 8, the film came in a square box like that, and literally you just put the square box in, and it was a full 50 foot spool, and they were basically, the spools were stacked on top of each other, so the full stack would be nearest you, and the empty spool would be at the back, which is then taken up by this little device in the middle here. And there, in the bottom of the camera, hopefully I'll be able to see, there we are, is the gate. Okay, so the film would come off the empty spool, come across to the right hand side as we see it now, go through the gate, around, and then it'd be taken up by this device here. Okay, I'm just backtracking here. I was editing in this film, well, not editing, I was just converting it really, and I realised that I said why some people thought Standard 8 was more superior. One of the strange reasons was because, you see this gate here, because the pressure plate is part of the camera, that makes it more precise, and it means that the focal length is controlled better. Whereas on the Super 8, because the way it's designed, and you put the cartridge in as a disposable item, the pressure plate is actually part of the cartridge, which was made of plastic, and I think there was a concern that picture quality was sacrificed because of that compromise. But to be honest with you, it was just so much easier to literally just get the cartridge, throw it in, take the pictures. When the film was finished, take the cartridge out, put another one in, it was a vastly superior system when you do see the rigmarole you had to go through to get the standard 8 to work. Right, back to the normal edit. Other little features which were, I think, standard on Super 8 was they always included a filter, so you could basically put, I don't know if I think the film was daylight film, and then you could, oh no, the film was indoor. I think the film was tungsten. So that would be without a filter, and then you'd flip it like that to daylight, and it would put a special filter in front that would convert the film so you could use it outdoors. Obviously got batteries for the motor mechanism, and these are the batteries for the exposure system. That's the battery test button. There's like a little ladle inside the viewfinder that shows you the, as far as I remember, the current light levels. But when you flick this, it would actually show you the battery condition. That's for the batteries for the exposure system, and that's the batteries for the power system. And then this here is a dial that shows you how far through the film you are. So it would start there and it would go around, and by the time you get back to the top, that's your full 50 feet, which I think from memory was 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So this 50-foot film in here lasted less time than the 50-foot in the Super 8, and that was because I believe not only was the film frames wider, but they're also more spaced apart as well, and I should be able to prove that. Yeah, there they are, they're more spaced apart as well. So for your 50-foot of film with Super 8, you're actually getting less frames. On the side here as well, there's a little indicator that tells you what the focus is. So there's infinity down to what's that going to be, 0.8 meters, 2.5 feet. These are all silent cameras, of course. There's no sound here, although there was a Super 8 sound version. This is certainly not it. Something I've just noticed there's a little thing there. This is where the light attachment would be, and what I'm thinking is, looking at it now, is that there, the light filter, yes it does, the light filter turns that. So I'm guessing what would have happened back in the day was, if it had the proper Bolex 150 Super light attachment on, when you switch the light on, it would automatically move the filter to the correct position, which is quite clever, isn't it? What does it say there? Lens and camera made in Switzerland. So there you go. I think I probably bored you all too much with this anyway now, but Super 8 and standard 8 cameras. I'm going to guess that this was probably early 60s, and I'm going to guess by the design of this that this must have been late 60s. I'll probably put in the caption when I find out. So that's the Bolex 150 Super and the Bell and Howell 624 8mm.